Hello there, and thank you for downloading the latest episode of our Say I Do with Fuze podcast. My name is Alan Edwards. I'm one of the Fuze Ceremony's Humanist Celebrants, and on this episode, it is our most frequently asked questions. Now, we have a huge celebrant team right throughout the length and breadth of Scotland, so we reached out to them and asked all of our celebrant team, what are the most common questions that they receive from couples? Now, this could be prospective couples who are perhaps inquiring about having a Fuze celebrant as the officiant on their wedding day. It could be perhaps meeting couples at wedding shows as they stop by for a chat. Or maybe it's a couple who have already booked and naturally have various questions along the way. And we always say to our couples, there is no such thing as a stupid question. So if you are recently engaged or you have booked a celebrant for your wedding and maybe you will have some questions, well, hopefully we will be able to answer them for you here. But of course, it's not just me. I am delighted to have a wonderful team around me here in the Fuze Ceremonies podcast studio. I'm joined by, from the Fuze Ceremonies team, Sam Conroy, Susan Krenbrenk, Oskar Gilchrist-Grodnicki and George Mclean. And we have actually got so many questions, we've split the episode into two parts. So here comes part one, your most frequently asked questions. Okay, Sam, one for you. What side of the aisle do I stand on? Couples will very often ask.
I love this question because I get quite creative with where people stand when it comes to their ceremonies. Obviously, you tell them a bit about the tradition, so usually you've got one at either side and the celebrant in the middle. But more often than not, the ceremonies that I do, the couple are standing side by side with me at the other side. And we tend to go with what aesthetically is going to look best when we decide to go with that option. So it might be that if we're standing at one side of the room, there's something obscuring a beautiful view, so we'll maybe move to the other. So there's loads of other things to consider within that. In fact, I was actually meeting a couple in Loch Lomond at the weekend where we had exactly that problem. They were adamant that they wanted to stand together, but when we were looking out this beautiful view onto the loch, on one side of it there was a big massive building that was going to completely obscure everything about that beautiful, magical, photographic moment. So we switched it to the other side. So when it comes to their wedding, we know exactly what's going to happen. But if a couple want to stand side by side, whether they want to stand opposite each other, I don't think there's really a clear, guided way to do it. It's entirely a couple's preference, I would say. But I always give couples an option as to what they want to do.
Yeah. And when it comes to like moving around within a venue, does that happen at the time? Or if you've got knowledge of a venue, if you've done a ceremony there previously, that's then something you can say to the couple, where do you want to stand?
I think it is helpful when you've done a ceremony before because you obviously know the layout, so there's more you can do in terms of suggestions and ideas. But I think because we get there so early in the day, even if there is something that's unexpected or you've maybe not been to the venue before, you've got an option and an opportunity to problem solve that. Like another example, on Friday I did a wedding at the Piping Centre in Glasgow, and the couple had got this beautiful arch, and in their head they wanted to be standing at the other side of it, and last minute I had a discussion with them and it became completely apparent that they should be standing underneath it. And I can't wait to see the photographs because it will just be spectacular, but it just shows you that anything can happen on the day. But I think if we are prepared as celebrants to expect the unexpected, then we can always problem solve for that couple.
And Oskar, as well as where you might physically stand, what about who goes on the left-hand side or who goes on the right-hand side? Is that important? Is that, freedom for each individual couple?
I think when it comes to humanist ceremonies, you've got so much freedom that you can do your own thing. But quite often I ask the couples how confident they feel about doing vows, for instance. And I had an example of that a few weddings ago where the bride was feeling as though if it was the traditional setup of the groom on the right, if you're standing facing the aisle, and the bride on the left, she'd have his family looking over his shoulder and he would have her family looking over her shoulder, and that didn't quite gel for them quite as much. So I said, why don't we just flip the side of things over, and then you can look over to your mum and dad as you're doing the vows, and you can look over to your parents as well, so they feel a little bit more comfortable as well. But Yeah, I think the positioning can work in various different ways, because I actually had a ceremony on Calton Hill in Edinburgh a few years ago now, and the couple was set on the fact that, we're in such an iconic location, you've got so many views around you, we can't just stand still and have just the castle view or Calton Hill or Arthur Seat.
Down to the docks.
So we were just moving with the ceremony. Every element of the ceremony, we had it facing a different way as well, so they could capture the beautiful views, 360 panoramic views of the city as well.
And has anyone been asked by a bride or groom they want to stand on a specific side because they have a good side? They want that to be in the photographs at the right angle?
I did. I had a wedding in November last year, and the bride was adamant that she had to have the left profile in the ceremony, so the roles kind of flipped. But what was interesting was that when we arrived to the venue the day before to have a look at what was happening in the rehearsal, she actually changed her mind because there was a window on the other side and she felt like she was kind of in the darkness. So we had to change the plan altogether. So that happens as well.
Yep. So the proof is there. Whichever side you want or indeed need to be on, we can facilitate it. No problem at all. Oskar, one for you. There can be quite a lot of focus on dads in weddings. Traditionally, of course, it's the bride's dad, where appropriate, who walks them down the aisle. But what about involving mums? Some people might ask, how can we involve our mums? Some other couples might not even think about a way of involving mums. But what are the different ways that mums can play their part in the big day?
You're absolutely right. And that's a question that comes up quite a lot in the conversations, because traditionally it's a very male-oriented kind of a spec of things for weddings, to have the dad give the bride away and dad do the speech. And there's a lot of dads in the ceremony. So couples do come up to me and say, how can we involve our mums? And actually, my favourite symbolic gesture that I encourage couples to do is the unity candle. Because with unity candle, quite often we've got a 3-armed candle stand, candelabra at the start of the ceremony, and we ask mums to come forward to show their warmth, their love, their support for the couple by lighting the family flame at the start of the ceremony. And then mums can say a few words themselves if they wish to do that, or they can just take their seat. But that's how, couples come together into marriage, because of the values that they've been brought up with as well. And there's a lot of symbolism with that as well. And quite often mums are the kind of heads of the family as well. And then as we move on with the ceremony, at the end of the ceremony, the couple then comes back together when they've done their vows and signatures on the marriage schedule, and we ask them to pick up those family flames, and with those 2 flames, they unite them to light the 3rd candle, and kind of starting from this point on their own family journey in a way as well, while supporting each other. They are still individual, but they kind of strengthen their relationship through that way as well. Another way to involve mums is obviously readings and poems. I highly encourage couples to do that. And even if you think your mum is not the most confident public speaker, by asking the mum to be involved and offering her that opportunity to do a reading or a poem at the wedding will really matter to them quite a lot as well. So that's probably the 2 most popular ones that I recommend for couples.
Do we have to stand for the whole ceremony?
They don't. If they don't want to stand for the full ceremony, they don't have to, but we encourage it. It's nice for them to be front and centre. It's their day. It's probably one of the few times where you get the chance to be the prince and the princess exclusively on your fairy tale day. But again, it could be that there's other factors that don't allow for that. People quite often have anxiety, and it might be that the fear of standing in front of people for so long and being that sole focal point might be too overwhelming. And the one thing I always say to couples is, do things that you're comfortable with. The one thing that you absolutely don't want to have is a bride and a groom that are completely panicking and not enjoying the moment. So if we can do anything that encourages them to be completely in that moment, and if that means sitting down momentarily and coming up for particular parts of the ceremony, then that's absolutely fine. But you tend to find that a lot of, certainly in my experience with the marriages that I've conducted so far, I haven't actually had a bride or groom that sat down. I have had a lot of anxious brides and a lot of people very concerned about walking down the aisle, but everybody's remained upright for the ceremony.
I actually had one Easter Sunday where they both wanted to have a seat, so they had the seats in front of the signing table rather than behind. So we stood for the important bits, the introductions, the vows, obviously the hand fasting. Hand fasting sitting down could be a wee bit complicated. So we stood for that. That was all fine. And in between times while they were listening to me reciting the story, they were quite happy to have a wee seat. And definitely the bride, when she put her trainers on afterwards, was absolutely delighted that she had that opportunity. So it can work. But the traditional time where you will sit down, Oskar, is when you are signing the marriage schedule.
That's correct, because obviously it's a lot easier to sign the paperwork at a table, although I have seen, not myself, haven't done that myself yet, but I've seen some celebrants having the paperwork signed on the back of their back effectively as well. But that's the most popular one, not only for the fact that it's easier to sign it, but also a really good opportunity for your photos so that you can have that moment with your witnesses, with the celebrant, and you've got a moment to yourselves there as well.
We discussed actually in a previous episode about elopements, where perhaps there is no signing table if you're up the top of Glencoe or you're in a meadow somewhere. There's sometimes, as you say, Oskar, someone's back might be the only leverage you have to actually get the fountain pen to mark the schedule. So there are always ways. There are ways and means. We do solutions, not problems, as Humanist Celebrants. Another question we've been asked, Oskar, can we walk in together at the start of the ceremony rather than having one person at the top of the aisle awaiting the other? Can they come in together?
Absolutely. I've actually had a wedding good few years ago now where, unfortunately, shortly before the wedding, both parents of the bride have deceased. They've passed. And as sad as it was, the bride was feeling very anxious about the walking in, because what do you do? The expectation is there, and she didn't want to get emotional at that stage as well. So although they didn't want to see each other before the wedding, very traditional in that respect, they have agreed that the groom would meet her as she enters the room for the wedding ceremony, and he would give her the supporting hand to walk her into the wedding ceremony as well. And I thought that was really lovely, and they kind of walked into this marriage together, which was symbolic in itself as well. But yeah, it's how you want to do it. I've had couples walking in with both parents. I've had same-sex couples that walk in with mums. There's so many different things, and like Sam said, humanist wedding ceremonies are so fluid that couples can have a lot of their own input on it as well.
Yeah. Any different examples of entrances that you've experienced, Sam?
No, I think Oscar's covered them all. The only thing that I've had is I've got a couple of couples who have done a preview before the wedding, so rather than get all emotional in front of everybody, all their guests and their family and friends, they've done a pre-reveal, like a reveal,
first look.
Yeah, a first look before the actual wedding ceremony, which I think is just beautiful, and the photographs that you see in the back of that are just lovely. But if that's something that helps a couple get over those nerves to get them down the aisle, then I think whatever we can do to support that journey is definitely an option during their ceremony.
Another question that we're asked a lot, so certainly in my experience, Susan, obviously we know it's a humanist wedding. Do we need to reference that in the ceremony itself at any point?
Yes, we do. Because it is a belief ceremony that we are having, we do have to tick that box with the Registrar General and the National Records of Scotland that is the type of ceremony that you've chosen to have. So we just say something along the lines of, the couple have chosen to have a humanist ceremony today. Those of you who are unfamiliar with the humanist philosophy, it's simply one of unity, respect, freedom of choice and thought. It's about caring for each other and the world that we live in, which I'm sure are values that we all share. And that ticks that box, and then we go on to the nice parts about the couple and nice fluffy parts. Yeah,
it ticks that box, and it just gives people a kind of representation of what a humanist ceremony is. Really, I suppose it's especially for the benefit of people who are perhaps more used to. Certainly something I say, if you're used to a different form of ceremony, I hope that you feel that all the values that we share, commonly are greater than anything that might divide us.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then with that, we have that at the beginning, certainly very near the beginning. Is it referenced again then at later points in the ceremony, however regularly?
I don't tend to include them throughout my ceremony. I open up the ceremony by saying that that's the type of ceremony that they've chosen to have, and then I then go on to, it's more the personalisation about the couple then. So no, I don't reference it any other time throughout the ceremony.
Can we have a dog as a ring bearer?
Yeah, I love this question. It's my favourite question.
Never work with animals or children, they say.
Wrong. We love a bit of chaos.
We do.
No, I absolutely love it when couples mention that they've got a dog, and then my question straight away is, so is the dog going to come to the wedding? And I love it. I love it when they say that there's going to be a dog at a wedding. I've done a wedding a few years ago at Mar Hall, and the two dogs walked the bride down the aisle, and they had matching kilts on to what the groom had as well. I did a wedding. It was so adorable. I did a wedding last week, and the couple had recently got a pup last year, and we said we've got a very special ring bearer today. And then I shouted, the dog was called Toby. Toby, can we have the rings, please? And the next minute, Toby came bounding down the aisle with the rings attached to him. So yeah. Love it when a dog's involved.
Yeah. How are you with dogs at weddings, Oskar?
I love dogs at weddings, but actually I think that's kind of getting a little bit broader now with other pets and animals being involved in the ceremony. I've had quite a few owl ring deliveries at weddings as well, and that's quite a popular one. It is scary at first thought when you're seeing this big bird of prey kind of flying towards you, but actually such a symbolic thing with it as well, and especially if couples are into their Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, that sort of things, it kind of resonates with them a lot better as well.
Yeah. One of my couples, the bride had a horse as well.
Wow.
And the horse wasn't there throughout the ceremony but was there afterwards, so it was still part of her day, and the photos that she had on the horse afterwards were just beautiful as well. Yeah.
Was that the strangest animal in that sense?
The horse?
Yeah. I'm not strange as such, but just more unorthodox is maybe a better word.
Probably. I mean, there's quite a trend now for having lots of different animals at weddings, isn't there? Llamas seem to be the thing these days.
Alpacas.
Alpacas, yeah. Probably the horse was probably the biggest animal that there was. Yeah.
Well, I might have a wedding in July that includes 2 tortoises.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And they got tortoises. They've got dogs as well, so there's going to be dogs and tortoises. Now, quite what the tortoises are going to do, we haven't quite decided.
I think we'll be waiting a while for them to be a ring bearer, wouldn't they?
If we get them to walk in on the Friday, we might make it in time for the ring exchange on the Saturday. We get quite a lot of people, Oskar, from different cultures, different backgrounds. How can we, if at all, incorporate different cultures into a humanist wedding ceremony?
So I probably have got quite a lot of experience with that, being a bilingual humanist celebrant myself. I'm originally from Poland, and I can deliver ceremonies in both Polish and English language. But quite often couples reach out to me that maybe aren't Polish, but they just want to have that representation of somebody that isn't originally from the UK. So I've worked with Jewish couples, Muslim couples, quite a lot of Slavic couples as well. And it's the symbolic gestures that really kind of pay respect to their tradition. The most popular one that I get asked to do, which is not commonly a tradition as such, because a lot of Slavic ceremonies are religious. We incorporate the symbolic gesture of sharing bread and salt at weddings. And the symbolism of that is actually normally done at Polish or Slavic weddings at the start of the reception. Parents greet the couple with bread and salt. The symbolism of that is that bread gives you no hunger and salt gives you a bit of flavour and also a bit of coarseness to it, so that you don't forget that you need to work hard at this after the ceremony as well. So couple break away a bit of bread, dip it in the salt and consume it there and then, and parents can give their blessings to the couple as well. So there's a lot of lovely symbolism. But beyond that, I've done smashing the glass, which is quite a Jewish tradition, about saying the fact that, marriage is fragile, and again, you need to work on that. And beyond smashing that glass, the symbolism of that is the seamless of the relationship beyond, which is to be expected.
Yeah, the most I've done is 2 brides last year, and one of them was from Sweden. So I, at the very least, learned how to say welcome and good afternoon in Swedish, which the bride's family were most appreciative of, and they said that they were able to understand my every word throughout the rest of it. So, which was quite nice. But I think it's indicative of our kind of values, really, Susan, as humanist celebrants, is that we will go that extra mile to personalise a ceremony for a couple, or indeed their guests or their family, because they know that it's going to be appreciated.
Yeah, of course. And when we have our meetings with our couples and, really get to spend some time with them and find out about them as individuals and also as a couple in their journey as a couple, we find out, about their backgrounds as well. And that is where we kind of then find out if there's any kind of cultural beliefs that they may want to incorporate. Like I've got a wedding coming up next month. The bride is Chinese, and traditionally they would have a Chinese tea ceremony as part of a Chinese wedding. And they were planning on doing that maybe before or after the Humanist ceremony. And I said, well, why don't we incorporate it throughout the ceremony instead, and have it as like a blending of the families and invite the groom's family up as well, which is what we would do sometimes with the blending of the families with the quake. So we're incorporating that throughout the ceremony as well. And that's something that's really different and really, really personal to the bride and means a lot to the bride's family, that their culture is recognised as well. So yeah, absolutely. It's a really lovely thing to do.
George, wee question for you. We get asked by couples that want to have a humanist ceremony. They may be asked, do they need to sign up to become a part of anything in order for that to happen?
It's something we get asked all the time, Alan. Couples who look at other humanist organisations, and some do ask them to join those organisations. But here at Fuze, we believe that they should have the choice, and we don't charge them to join us. Yeah, some couples want the freedom of a humanist ceremony so that they can showcase how much they love each other and display that in other ways through symbolic gestures, through personal vows, etc., that they could never ever do or be allowed to do within a religious setting. So it's really ideal. And after all, we're all humans at heart. And, that is what humanist ceremonies are about, just being a human being and caring for the environment and each other.
Those are the fundamentals.
Absolutely.
Right there. Are humanist ceremonies, Sam, legally binding?
Legal ceremonies are legally binding, and that can include humanist ceremonies, as long as the couple have applied to get married, as long as the celebrant is registered and able to marry that couple, then it is a legal marriage. However, you will get some celebrants that are able to conduct non-legal ceremonies, and that's where the lines can get a bit blurred, because if you're looking to have a legal marriage, as in you're looking to attach yourself in marriage as husband and wife, it does need to be that the person that is marrying you is registered to do so. So it's really good to have that conversation at Fuze. So at Fuze, if you're meeting a celebrant at a wedding show, or perhaps using our live availability checker to see who's available for your wedding, at that point only the legally registered celebrants that are able to conduct your ceremony and legally marry you will be available for you to have introductions to.
George, some people might ask, okay, so I'm going to have my humanist wedding ceremony with all the different things I want to include, but do we still need a registrar or have to go to a town hall or an office, a council office somewhere to actually make it legally binding?
It's a bit of a myth, so let's bust that one right now. So as long as you're speaking to a legal marriage officer, and as Sam said earlier, you can work that out through our live availability checker, and it will filter down who are legal marriage officers. As long as you're employing one of them to conduct your ceremony, then there is no need for a registrar. In England and Wales, for example, then you do have to have a registrar, and you can have a humanist wedding ceremony performed by a humanist celebrant the next day, for example. But we've got the absolute luxury of doing it in one go, as long as you have one of our legal marriage officers, which...
Yeah, pretty much. If you put wedding ceremony in the Fuze availability checker, you will only find those who are legally able.
That is a question that gets asked, and it gets asked a lot on the kind of bridal Facebook groups, quite a lot. Someone might kind of fell foul of that, thinking they've booked a legal marriage officer from another organisation. Then they'll ask the question on the forums, and then, everything goes crazy for a couple of hours.
Certainly for me, though, I will say to couples, one of the first things I'll say when I'm meeting them, either via video or face-to-face, that I am a licensed marriage officer. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting having the conversation, and then that just puts their minds at ease straight away.
Yeah.
Sam, we've mentioned the freedom that we have, that couples have with humanist ceremonies in terms of location, in terms of different things they can include. But and we've also discussed different cultures being incorporated. But that's the main point, is that humanist weddings are all-encompassing and all-inclusive to anyone in Scotland.
Absolutely. Same-sex marriages became legal in Scotland in 2014. Forward-thinking Scotland as always, and it's something that we are very proud to be able to do for couples, very much recognising inclusive nature of humanist ceremonies, as you've said, about the diverse range of people. And actually, when you're creating a personal ceremony for somebody, who are we to say, well, actually, no, you can't marry that person because actually we don't approve of that? As far as we're concerned, it's a human aspect, so every person is a human, regardless of sex, gender, all the other bits and pieces that go with it. The main thing is that you've got two people standing in front of you who are wholly and deeply in love and want to attach themselves to each other, and it's great that Scotland has given us a mechanism to be able to do that.
Some couples will ask Susan, will we have a rehearsal for the marriage?
Yeah, I get asked this question quite a lot, and the answer is no, it's not really necessary. Rehearsals are quite something that I think happens quite a lot in traditional church ceremonies, which is, I think, where the question alludes from. But no, I don't think it's necessary. Part of our job on the day is to stage manage the order of the ceremony. And I arrive at my ceremonies roughly about an hour beforehand. And what I do is first of all, when I get there, I make sure that everything's in place, and then I'll pop up to go and see the bride and her bridesmaids, and I'll speak to them about the order of them walking down the aisle, of where they need to stand and stuff like that. Then likewise, once I've seen the bride and her bridesmaids, I'll then go and speak to the groom, the groomsmen, advise them of where they should be standing, liaise with any readers and stuff like that as well. So in answer to your question, no, a rehearsal really isn't necessary.
And sometimes it's not practical either. If you live far away from the couple and the venue, it's not physically possible for you to do it.
Yeah, of course. And a lot of the venues are just so busy now as well. Yeah. So there could be a wedding on the day before as well. So yeah, the feasibility of it as well. And you've got so much to do the lead up to your wedding. Rehearsals aren't really necessary.
Yeah. What about taking photographs in ceremonies, Susan? Now, most couples will have perhaps paid a good bit of money for an official photographer. Yep. But what about when it comes to guests and phones and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'll always make a wee announcement at the start of the ceremony, and I'll say to guests, we're just about ready to start today's ceremony. If I can ask you all to ensure that your mobile phones are on silent. And as a request of the bride and bride, groom and groom, if I can ask you all to be mindful of a professional photographer and videographer today and refrain from taking any photos during the ceremony. I will invite you all to come down during the signing of the schedule, which is the perfect time to capture the happy couple. I think looking back, when the couples see their photos back, it will look far nicer of everybody looking at them as opposed to holding phones up and stuff like that as well. What I've started doing now as well is in the preparations, once everybody's sitting waiting for the bride or the grooms to arrive, as I ask everybody to take a wee selfie and then send that, because a lot of people have these apps now as well, these wedding apps, and then the couple the next day can sit and look at them all as well.
We did that at ours. My sister-in-law set up a wee WhatsApp chat and we passed on loads of numbers, and she asked everyone to take pictures in the seats, so it all just appeared on this chat, which we didn't really kind of look at, and then the next morning we got to see everyone's pictures when they were looking at the breast, and some nice wee messages to go with it. So there are different ways. What if, Oskar, a couple are quite insistent that they are happy for their guests to take photographs?
I think it really comes down to couple's preference. We have these conversations with the couple, do you want people to take photos at the wedding? If they do take the photos, is it just during the ceremony, or do you want them taking photos for the rest of the day? Do you want them to post on social media? What are the rules? Let's set the expectations so that everyone is on the same page and we can kind of preempt that before the ceremony begins as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really personal preference at the end of the day. If you are happy with that, then that's not a problem. One clip that a future bride of mine sent me was a celebrant, I'm sure it was in America, where what he did was, as soon as they got to the bottom of the aisle and had kissed them or ready to start, he gave all the guests a chance to take a photograph, said, right, go. And they all go out with the phones, and then 30 seconds later, right, that's it, away. And then that sort of kind of appeases everybody, I suppose, if you like, gives you your wee moment.
Yeah.
Actually, off the back of that, I have had several of my couples who are quite keen on that idea, and that's something I'm going to be doing in quite a few weddings throughout the remainder of the year. That is part one of our most frequently asked questions podcast, and I hope that it's perhaps answered some questions that you were thinking of. It may even have answered some questions that you hadn't thought of. But that is what we are all here to do at Fuze Ceremonies. Once you have booked your celebrant, we are with you all the way to guide you, to help you get the most out of your Humanist wedding ceremony, and to make sure you are as relaxed and as calm as possible, as much as you can be ahead of such an important occasion. Part 2 will be coming very soon, so make sure you subscribe on Spotify and you'll be notified as soon as it is ready to download to your device and enjoy any time. And have a scroll through the series so far, where we cover many of the subjects that have been discussed in this episode in a lot more detail with our awesome Fuze Ceremonies Celebrant team. I'm Alan Edwards. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon for part 2.